Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Full Circle podcast, where we bring you conversations that will move you closer to your purpose. I am so excited for today's guest. She is literally a ball of energy, a ball of positivity, a ball of light, whatever you can think she is. She's also a medical doctor, a pediatrician, an MC, a mother, a wife. She really does it all. Dr. Khanyile, welcome to the Full Circle podcast.
Hi, Ndavi, and hi to everybody. Let me do the thing. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, I'm so glad I didn't have to ask you to do that because, yes, we all needed that wake-up call, honestly.
Yeah.
How do you do it all? Literally, reading your bio, I was blown away. And I'm like, on top of everything, she is a mother and a wife, and she posts everything on social media. How do you do it?
So thank you. But I think one of the big guys that helps me out with everything I do is God. And I think I say that I'm a real girl in a big world tasked by an awesome God to serve his people.
Amazing.
And so if I understand the purpose that he's put me on earth for, he kind of allows me with the strength, the joy, the energy that I need. Because, there's always times where you have ideas about things in your head and you're like, I can do this. And you get tired and you realize it's because you're doing things in your own strength.
Sure.
So definitely God is the biggest drive and the biggest motivator and source of energy for what I do.
Sure. Already kicking us off on such a high note,
It's the beginning and the end, Lala.
She said, waste no time. I love what you said about the fact that when you're doing what you should be doing, God gives you the energy to do that. So you're saying one of the ways to tell that, okay, I'm not in purpose is when you're feeling drained. What are some of the other things you've noticed are a sort of an indicator that maybe the path and the journey I'm on isn't necessarily what I should be doing?
I think peace is a big one. Sometimes it's important that you do challenge yourself and you push yourself to do things maybe that are outside of your comfort zone. But peace is not wrestling with yourself. There is the daily battle of flesh versus spirit, but you're talking about now really wrestling. Should I go through this? I can't explain the peace until you feel it. Once you have that peace, it kind of makes sense for what you're doing. You're able to handle the challenges better. Yes, you will have breakdowns. Yes, you'll probably cry. I cry all the time. But I think it's understanding that it's part of the journey. And you kind of see that as you keep walking, God starts moving. Things start happening slowly but surely, and they open up for you. And I think the other thing is the resources come, right? So when you are walking in purpose, you might have a vision of something that you haven't even seen yet, but this is something I want to do. But it seems so big. How am I going to pay for this? How am I going to do this in terms of time? The resources come. You just have to figure it out one step at a time.
Sure. That is so good. And I can relate with that in so many different levels. I think the part where you said that sometimes the vision is something that you don't even know how it's going to look. I actually remember shooting a video the day I went to record the first episode, and I said, usually when I go and do something that is scary for me, but I know God sent me, I go and do that alone because, number one, I'm not even sure what it's supposed to look like.
Exactly.
So how do I tell you to come and do it with me when I don't even know what it's supposed to look like? And it can be so scary, but it's so true what you're saying, that as you go and as you do it, the people start coming, the resources start coming, and everything starts panning out in that way. So that's so powerful. Let me take us back a little bit because we really just went straight in.
Yes, we did. Apologies.
Apologies. I love it. Personally, I love it. So season 1, the theme is planted, right? And with that, it came from a place of having gone through a season where I felt like I was being hidden. And I'm not sure if you can resonate with this, but after doing a lot of prayer and asking God, what is the season? I feel like I should be doing this and I should be doing that, but I feel stuck in a sense. And he revealed to me that you're not stuck, you're being planted. And in the planting, you are being rooted in your values and the way that you should go about life. Have you ever found yourself, or do you have a story that truly resonates with the theme of being planted or rooted or being hidden?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be my medical journey, right? In medicine, there are a lot of things that you have to experience and go through that can be very difficult, but also because it's such a prestigious career, you're expected to perform at such a high level under insanely difficult conditions. And so when it came to social media and medicine, I wanted to educate people, but also take them behind the scenes of what it looks like, right? Having said that, when I finished my specialization, which was in September 2024, I really needed to take time to kind of figure out, like, what does life look like for me? Because from high school, it was med school. Then med school was internship, ComServe, specialization. And then I was just like always having a plan. But now I got to a point where God was like, okay, well, go. And I'm like, I don't want to go. And he's like, no, but go, And I'm like, I don't know where to go. So I had to really go back home and really sit with myself and figure out what is it that I want for myself that is in line with God's will, but also what is it that I need to do? Because sometimes there are things you want to do that you can't do right now because the needs need to come first. And we also assume that growth is upwards. It's the fruit, it's the flower, it's the leaves. But growth downwards, like you said, you're being rooted, is just as important. When we think about a bamboo tree, their roots go all the way into the ground and then the growth suddenly happens. So God was planting me planting me with roots that were going down deep in my family, also in church because I got to start serving, also in my businesses because I started figuring out I was working under such pressure. Are these things that I actually want to do? Are these purposes and passions that I really believe in? And then lastly, when I am settled in that, the fruit will come. And I think we're starting to see the fruit now, and I'm starting to, flourish in it. But I'm thinking of, Ephesians, where they speak about seasons, and there's a season for mourning, there's a season for joy, there's a season to be planted, and there's a season for fruit. And I think I'm now heading out of my planting and root laying season and moving into my fruit season.
Sure. That is so good. And I think it's powerful what you're saying about the fact that there was steps,
Yes.
I'm in high school and now I go to university and now I do this and I do that. And it's very easy to fall into the cycle of just doing everything that you see everyone else doing. Because it's simple, right? And we're also moving in a group. So you don't have to question whether it's gonna work or not. You know it's gonna work because it's worked for so many other people. Mm-hmm. So this brings me to my next question. When and how did you realize that, no, man, I was made for more? Yeah. It's like I am significant and I can't just follow the normal path that everyone else is following.
Yeah, so I think from very young, I knew that there was something I needed to do that involved service. It was always service, coming from a family of people who served. And then moving through into high school, I knew that my hands and my talent for talking were going to get me somewhere. Okay. I was that kid in primary school. They called me Nokia because one, they couldn't say Nogukanya. And then secondly, because I was just so chatty,
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I get to tell my primary school teachers, like,
it worked out for me.
That's my job now, is to talk, But it really hit me when I was in internship, when I started realizing how many colleagues were suffering with mental health challenges because of the work environments we were in, and also having to still maintain a full life of family, friends, raising children in that environment. And I spoke to God and I was like, there's something going on here. I don't know what it is. How do I do or help, the people around me outside of just interacting with them one-on-one? And that's how Mental Matters came up. So Mental Matters South Africa is our organization where we destigmatize mental illness, but we also seek to promote mental wellness. And I think it's one thing knowing what depression is and knowing the symptoms of it, knowing the medication you need to take, but it's another thing knowing what does isolation look like if I'm in a career where I'm always alone. I'm always working really hard on my laptop. Maybe I work from home. Nobody comes into my space. You're already isolated. So if I'm feeling depressed, is that because I'm alone all the time, or is it because there's other things? And so we give practical steps. And that's how I started realizing that, okay, education from a healthcare point of view, which has very complex topics, breaking it down easily and simply for anybody to understand.
Yeah.
Whether you're a child, because in pediatrics, we get taught how to explain very complex conditions to a child who has to take medication, go through that journey, to parents who are maybe not even speaking English. How do I translate a cyanotic congenital heart disease in another language?
Yeah, how do you?
Exactly, right? So I have to explain that in really easy, understandable terms. And so that was the gift that God gave me, is being able to look at the holistic human being, being able to explain really complex situations in easy to understand ways, and also giving people and empowering people with tools that they can use to improve their lives individually wherever they are.
Yeah, sure. So something that stands out for me is that you truly believe in the power of service. And I would love to talk about mental matters a bit more as well. But it stands out in each and every way, whether that's you being a doctor, whether it's you communicating, whether it's in motherhood. But service is really a theme that I see really stands out in you and in your day to day. So for someone who feels as well that they are significant and they would like to serve, and perhaps their day to day is a 9 to 5 and everything is very much what do you call it? It's routine.
Yeah.
Each and every single day is routine, but they can feel that, no, but I would like to serve. What kind of advice would you give for someone who doesn't even necessarily have a lot of time on their hands? Where would you say you can begin to serve?
I think it's use your everyday as worship, right? So when you understand that 9 to 5 is you interacting with people that may never ever meet a Jesus or a God, may never read a Bible. You could be the only Bible that they ever interact with. That kind of changes the way that I interact with the people at work, because I could be leading someone to Jesus just by being myself, right? So when I do things as an act of worship, whether it's greeting people in the morning by saying good morning, whether it's helping out juniors who are at work, whether it's, speaking to a mom and taking an extra 2 minutes to say, okay, the baby is fine, how are you? Asking if she's had something to eat or drink that day. All of those small moments are what make the routine a lot easier to manage, because we can wake up in the morning, go to the gym, go to church, go to work, come back. But when you make each of those things exceptional in their own way, it makes it something that you can really look forward to. And I think the other thing is stewarding over what you have, so that when God gives you more, you're able to handle that more. And it kind of just feels like a continuation instead of, I have to start a new project all over again. So if you're in a 9 to 5 and God is saying, you need to start a side hustle, this side hustle is eventually going to take over, but you still have to steward that 9 to 5 and do it well, so that this can also get your attention. If you didn't steward the 9 to 5 properly and you were, mishandling that, when you bring this on, it's going to add added stress. So managing what you have right now is just as important as having bigger dreams and bigger goals for the future, because the principles and the habits you have in this small thing that you're doing will actually lead you to the future and make you a better steward of the bigger things.
Sure, guys. Spitting gems. Like, what? I'm sitting here. I just want to go sit down and watch this whole thing back right now and make notes. So I hope you're taking notes. Khanyile, how do you know then, if you're doing all these things, how do I as a person know that, okay, I am serving well? Or how do you then measure the success of what you're doing? Because I think as humans, we tend to look at ourselves and look at what we're doing, and we're always, when we achieve the one thing, we're on to the next thing, and it's like, okay, well, that's done. I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do better.
Yeah.
Because also when you wake up in the morning, you open your social media.
Yes.
Someone's already done a 10 kilometers run, and like, I just opened my eyes.
Yes.
So we're constantly in this having to chase and do better. So how do you know that, you know what, I am serving well, I can still strive for more, but I am successful in what I'm doing?
So for me, it's two things. There's a lot of things, but the two big things are, one, talk to God about what success is. Because if you kind of have this big vision and big dream, and you're not constantly checking in with Him and yourself about where we are and how we are moving, what you're going to do is you're going to get caught in the highway. It's kind of like a slipstream when you're in the, in the ocean and you're surfing or you're swimming, and then you get caught in that riptide. It's going to pull you along. And if you don't kind of have something to anchor you to say, okay, where am I? Is this in line with where I'm going? Am I going in the right direction? Am I being led? You're going to get caught up, and you might feel like there's so much more to do, which leads me to my second point, which is acknowledge the wins, right? They can be small. Like, for example, your first episode might seem small to you, but for someone else, that might be a huge deal, right? 100. And it is a huge deal, right? For other people, it might be, just especially people living with mental health challenges or having come from a difficult background, you being the first person to graduate in your family is a big deal. You being maybe, even if you, because in my in my husband's family, there are two other doctors and I'm now the third one. Whereas with my side, I'm, like the first doctor. So everyone was really excited about that. But they still celebrated it as if I was the first one. That's really important because it makes you anchor yourself where you are, and also then take a pause to say, I've actually worked really, really hard. I've done the work. I have put in all of my effort, and that's okay. Even if that's all I've done, that's okay. But now I'm ready to take the next step, full of energy, full of the vigor, and then going back to the brakot to say, okay, what's the next step?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's success is different for everybody. For you, success would look different to me, but I think we underestimate how success can look in different areas. Success in motherhood might not look the same as success in the workplace. Success in marriage might not look the same as success in singlehood. And we have to acknowledge all of those. And if I think social media is more of a motivator, and it's important to curate the accounts you follow so that you're not constantly being bombarded by, yo, holiday, yo, this country, yo, this flight, yo, this bag. But you're actually saying to yourself, hey, you know what? The fact that I managed to take Diepolo to a whole activity day. Diepolo is my daughter, by the way. Take her on a whole activity day, get her home. I managed to bath her. I managed to brush her teeth. Managed to make food for her by myself. Papa went to go play golf. I feel like a good mom and a great, daughter today, or a great mom and a great wife today. That's enough. And I think we underestimate that even if work is drowning at the moment, that was a big one, and that's a success for me.
Sure. So being able to distinguish the different areas of your life and measuring the success individually.
Yes.
So if I'm doing well financially, I won't always necessarily be doing well with family, but I can acknowledge that, okay, this is going well, but how do I then manage this side?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's something we struggle with because it's like when we're failing or not achieving what we want to achieve in the one area, we just label the entire thing a failure.
It overwhelms
you just say, oh, actually, I suck. I'm not doing anything right. I can't get anything done. So that's actually so true. And I tend to do that. Oh, you're checking me. You are checking me on that. Khanyile, one of the things that I absolutely love about you, and we spoke about social media a little bit, is your vulnerability and your positivity. When I go to your page, and she spoke about curating how you follow and who you follow, so intentionally, I started following you as well.
And vice versa.
Thank you. And every time I go to your page, I walk away either laughing, I'm smiling, I'm motivated to go to the gym.
Yeah.
How do you manage to do that consistently, sharing your life? And I'm saying this because one of the things that I struggle with is that vulnerability. So yes, I can be going to the gym. Yes, I can be very positive. But for me, to share that doesn't always come easily or naturally. And I'm not saying that it does for you. That's where the question is going. How do you manage that vulnerability and sharing that positivity day to day on your social media platforms?
So when I started with social media and taking it seriously, I realized that I need to have a vision and a mission. I have to take myself seriously because people are going to want to take me seriously. And if I'm just clowning around, then, it's going to be difficult for me to interact with people on that way. So the big vision is that I'm a doctor, a keynote speaker, and a change maker. And then the way that I do that is using faith, family, fun, and fitness. Everything I do on my page has one of those four.
Sorry to interrupt. You're ticking two of our main boxes in your life's mission and vision. So this is exactly why she's here, guys.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's the mission that I have. And then the guiding principle I have for anything I post on social media is if my mother and my father have to be at work and someone has to show them that that's what I'm doing on social media.
Yeah.
Would they be proud of me or would they be embarrassed? And if my parents are going to be embarrassed, then I'm not posting it, which really helps because I think not to say that, you have, because some people's parents are different to how they are, but I really honor my parents. And I feel like if my parents had to be like, this is not something you should be doing, I would have to take that very seriously, And so it's one of those things where even with my husband, if his parents have to see something, would they be proud or not proud, And I'm like, now I'm posting like, oh, kissy, kissy. And they're like, and then when I'm like, maybe not. But, it's an expression of understanding that what I do, I think anybody should be able to do on social media. Having said that, I have a private life, not necessarily a secret life. So there are specific things that I protect for myself or my family until the time is right, or that I just never share. Just because I think sometimes with social media, once you put it out there, it kind of gives people a gateway to ask you about that. So the one example I use is pregnancy, right? Everyone is like, when's the Apollo getting a sibling? But I don't talk about it often because I'm not ready to have that conversation. But if I did start talking about it and people ask me about it, I can't get upset because I'm like, hey, guys, get out of my womb. I'm the one who's bringing it out there. So there's like a responsibility of a push and a pull with social media that I really take into account. Because if a random person had to stop me on the side of the street and say, hi, ma'am, can you please tell me about this and this? Or if they greet Diapolo, am I comfortable with that? And if I'm not comfortable with that, it's not something I want to share on social media.
And that's actually a question I was going to ask, that is there a cost to that vulnerability? Because essentially you are bringing people into a part of your life that you wouldn't necessarily have been able to had there been no social media. So your world is open to a wider audience, but that also means they have more access to who you are, what your family is about, what you're trying to do. So I love that you balance the private life, but also being able to share your life with other people, because there's so much beauty in that as well.
Thank you so much. And I think even for work, it's really important that we maintain professionalism at work all the time, because nowadays people are recruiting and making sure that they do background checks on your social media, So you also have to be responsible with what you put out there. But I think it's interesting because there were some times where I would be engaging or interacting with colleagues at work, and there would be like a offhanded comment about a social media thing, and they're like, or something along the lines of, oh, you're not as silly as I thought you were. And I'm like, yes, because I'm at work. We're working. I can't be, good morning, everybody. Hi, mommy. We're about to, like, that is my personality, but it also has its place.
Right.
And I think we forget that as professionals, in the same way that you wouldn't be going to an event and acting that way as if you were in a boardroom, there are specific spaces where you can be a particular way. And social media just allows me to kind of have fun and show everybody that life is really hard, but it doesn't have to be tough. It doesn't have to be, something that can, even the difficult things can be a source of joy and can be a way to teach you a lesson that you might use for a later battle or a later victory that you need to learn from.
Yeah, so good. We've spoken very positively about social media, but it obviously also has the other end where if you don't pick the people you follow intentionally, it can really lead you down a road where you're spiraling and comparing yourself and actually leaving the platform feeling drained than energized. So how do you, what I've noticed about you is that you really show up authentic and real. I mean, I think even the way that you wear your hair, your afro out, I don't know if that's also got to do with how much you just want to show up as the real authentic you, but it's absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
Why is that important for you to always be authentic and real? And for me, this is very important because in a world where everything is edited and everybody's showing up as their best selves, and, there's far and few where people are still showing up as real, and you seem to hold on to that. How do you do that, and why is that important to you?
So for me, medicine showed me how little free time I actually have. So imagine now I have to make sure that my lashes are always done, my makeup is always done, my hair is always done. That forced me to, one, actually accept that this is who I am. My beauty is my beauty. And at 4:00 in the morning, when I'm running to a recess, it doesn't matter like what face beats I have. What matters is the work that I do. Am I able to manage my team? Am I able to put out, make decisions that are going to help save a life, in some moments? And so that was the one thing where I thought to myself, let me focus more on the skills I have than the appearance of it. But then the second layer is, I love my natural hair because I think I grew up like really struggling with just doing it. It was always getting relaxed and then it broke and then I had to cut it and then I had a cheese crop at one point and then when I had my baby I had peripartum hair loss and like all of those things affected how I saw myself. And I realized that even if I lose my hair and even if I still have to go to work. Even if I don't get my lashes done, dear Pullo is still going to be like, okay, mommy, can I have a kiss? So there's so many other things that are more important, but I can still take care of myself and make myself presentable in a way that people can relate to me. But time is also of the essence, because when you're in a high stress, high demand situation, we don't always have the time to get our hair done, the time to get our lashes done. So how can we steward over what we have? And so that's why I really believe in like taking care of my natural hair. And even with Diapolo, hey guys, having a 4-year-old and trying to get her hair done is a lot, especially when it's natural. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't need to relax it. But it's also like learning, if she can take care of herself that way, she can make her own decisions later on. I'm fine with that. But just to thank you for the authenticity, I think it's easier for me to be myself. And one of my favorite verses is in Matthew where Jesus speaks about you being the light of the world and the salt of the earth. Hey, sissy, I'm salty, hey? And I'm very light. So if you don't like my saltiness, it's really okay. And if you think I'm too bright, I can't put myself, I've tried to dim my light. It just doesn't work. And so I've understood that who I am is going to annoy some people, just purely based off who I am. But it will then affect me trying to adjust myself to everyone else. And everyone is going to have an opinion. So let me just be me. And if you don't like it, cool. But don't come up with me because I'm from the south side of heaven. Me and Peter
I like that one.
Okay. I always laugh because I say I wake up in the morning, I'm like, yes, Jesus, I can do this. By the end of the day, Peter and me are seeing eye to eye. We're like, whose ear are we cutting off next?
Who are we chopping?
And I'm like, and then God is like, not Kanye. And I'm like, sorry. I'm coming back to the heart of it.
Where it's all about you.
But my authenticity comes from an understanding that God put me on this earth this particular way. These are the strengths. These are the weaknesses. This is what I have to work with. If I cannot steward over what He has given me, when He gives me everything else, I will just apply my imperfections and my reality onto that thing. And when I say other things, I mean my child. So when I understand that other people look at me through the lens of their perception, it gives me the ability to give them grace and also to give myself grace. Yeah.
So many things I want to ask. Coming from that, I'm like, clock it. You speak so much about your daughter, Diapulo. Am I saying it right? Diapulo. What does that mean?
Diapulo is a revelation. So remember when Jesus was speaking to the disciples and they said, we've been trying to heal people and we've been trying to do miracles. And and He basically says to them, you are foolish because look at this child who's got faith as small as a mustard seed. That's all you need. So literally, she was my mustard seed who grew into my mountain.
Yeah.
But secondly, just when I think about the revelation she is. So Diapullo is a revelation. Her full name is Diapullo Sentle, which is a beautiful revelation. So as she grows, there's more and more that is revealed about her, but also about me as a mother, as a Christian, as a wife, as a family member, even as a pediatrician, because I learned so much just from watching her grow and seeing her get sick and get better, etc.
Yeah.
But also, it was really an honor that my father-in-law got to name her, because this was the verse that I had in my head, and he said, got it, took it, and he gave us the name. So it's spelled with an L and not a D because it's a Sesotho name.
Right.
And so it was also really great because then she says it with so much pride. She's like, my name is Diapolo. And I'm like, yes, my queen. Emphasize that lo at the end.
I love that. You're raising such a little confident queen.
Yes, who tests her strength, confidence on me.
Good luck. Hey.
Thanks. I'm going to need it.
But it sounds like fun.
It is.
Well.
It really is.
Yes.
Yeah.
How has she changed the way that you view yourself and the way that you view your world?
So she changes how I view myself because everyone who knew me as a child says that she is the exact copycat version of myself. So she heals me in that way because she kind of validates the emotions I have, the actions I have, the love language I have, because we both have physical touch and quality time as a love language. So it makes me feel so great to know that, like, when I want to hug people and I want to just, that's how I am because she's that way. And I'm like, yes, I understand that. It also gives me an understanding of my emotions from the sad side because she gets really heartbroken about small things for me. But for her, they're such a big deal. And so it kind of leans into the strength that I have, which is empathy. Even though I cry a lot and I'm an emotional person, that for me is a strength, especially as a healthcare professional, working with people and also working and treating patients and families. Because I understand that if I'm feeling this way, how must you as the mom be feeling? Or how must you as the patient be feeling? For the world, I think it's really great to be able to go out into the world and have someone who is so independent. I always say, I think sometimes she raises herself, but I understand that there's a community of people around her that has helped me do that. But also to thank God for the people that I can lean on to help me do that. It re-emphasizes how important family is because, as we know, today's society is so difficult on the family. We're being pulled apart either through social media, work, money, etc. All of the challenges, infidelity that comes into marriages. And because we are able to kind of hold each other together and keep each other together, she is able to thrive because she knows Papa is there, Mommy is there, Nana is there, Mama Fina is there, Khono is there, and she can just rattle them off. And she's just got all these people that she can turn to, which I'm honestly grateful for because I know that not everybody has that experience.
That's so true. That's very true. One of the pillars for the Full Circle podcast is fitness.
Yes.
You know, guys, you need to see her arms. Today she's all covered up.
I made
but
sure.
Please check out her Instagram. I still need her to give me the tips for her gun arms. Like, it's insane. You can see it even through the top.
Really? Oh my gosh. I didn't even see.
So you really emphasize taking care of yourself and your wellness, both physically and with your mental wellness as well. How would you advise someone to kind of shift their body image? And I want to tie this back to your daughter. Were there possibly things that you used to see in yourself that you would judge about yourself and your body image that now, because of your daughter, you're like, no, man, actually, I'm embracing this. I like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting you say that because Diapullo has this little mokaba. She calls it her dimpa, which is your stomach, right? And when we were growing up, we always, like my sister and I, it was one of those things where, you know, we were part of the very skinny generation. So everyone was super skinny. You had to have like crop top and, you know, like short skirts and whatnot. And you had to like dodge your parents so they don't see. And you were always subconscious about our stomach. And even after having my baby, I realized like, yo, hi guys, it's tough down there. But seeing how free she is with it and also understanding that her having a dimpa is actually healthy because she's a child, she's a toddler, she's learning to, you know, move around the world. She doesn't have to think about posture so much because she just needs to be strong and moving her body to go on the jungle gym. But importantly, what we have kind of emphasized to her is when she is eating and she's full and she's happy, her dimba is like full. And then she shows us and she lifts up her top. She goes, look at my dimba, you know?
I love that.
The other thing is she's got birthmarks. So I have a little bunny looking birthmark here on my arm. I also have like lots of freckles and birthmarks all over my body. But she always goes to them and she's got one on her face that matches this one. And she goes, Mommy, it's like you took a piece of me and put it on you. And I'm like, I did. So I used to be so self-conscious about my freckles and all of these birthmarks. And Diapolo now thinks it's like, she calls it a constellation. And, you know, she says there's a constellation. And sometimes she like draws and connects the dots and whatever. And like for her, this is the greatest thing, you know. And that's also made me think, actually, yes, my freckles are a part of who I am. When it comes to like growing up and being just a part of a community of people, that doesn't really see fitness as a big deal because work was the big thing, right? You had to be at work and you had to take care of the family. When I started working, I needed to be strong. I mean, we're doing sometimes 28, 30-hour calls. which means I'm standing on my feet all the time. It means that I'm sometimes doing physical resuscitations where that's a lot of work effort. I'm walking up and down from different wards. I'm then also having to be alert and awake to make critical decisions. And then because I was studying, I have to be able to answer questions after not sleeping for like 16, 18 hours and being on the phone with consultants at 2 o'clock in the morning, having to make normal words make sense. So what I realized was the stronger my body got, the clearer my mind got. And also because I was then able to be stronger for myself, I could be stronger for my team. When my team felt supported, we all want to work together, and that also goes to the joy. When you are physically strong, that joy is easier to like get out of yourself. And that also made it nice because then the sisters want to work with you, then these ones want to work with you. Everybody's having a good time on call. You have frustrated parents and you're like, hi, mama, don't worry, we're going to get sorted. And you're giving the energy to the team. Energy is contagious, whether it's good or bad. So that kind of helped me sustain that energy through those really difficult long calls. I think the other thing is when it came to understanding how physically strong I needed to be, it helped because, as you know, with mental health, exercise helps with sleep. It helps with your mood. It helps with just concentration because I was studying at the time. It helps with better decision making. And importantly for me, my marriage. I'm daddy looking good, okay, because we gym together. But also,
I'm taking notes. Notes.
We train together. So it's also like really nice to kind of see him getting, and I'm getting, But because we train together, it becomes a principle. Dear Pullo even now knows, oh yeah, mommy and daddy are not here in the morning because they're going to the gym. I'll see them when they come back, That is important because it helps foster better mental health in me that spills out to my family, that also spills out to my workplace. And overall, that improves the experience of everyone around me. And almost the way I kind of think about it is abundance. So when I get the abundance of the Lord, it pours and overflows out to other people. So when I am taking care of myself, I'm stewarding over my body, I'm making sure that I'm eating right. Don't drag me because sometimes I have a quota every week or two.
Or 2 in a week.
They understand. And I think that's why I also train so much.
Right.
But it's also important to have a trainer who pushes me that way because he knows I'm going to get bored and then I'm going to just But stewarding over that physical body helps me be a better doctor, a better mother, a better wife, a better community member, and also servant of the Lord. When we are at church and we're serving on platform, we have to sing and dance, So you might be thinking, oh, this is a performance. No, that's an actual worship. That's what we do. So that physical worship enables me to do that. And hopefully when people see that, they don't think, wow, Kanya looks really great on platform. They think, wow, the joy of the Lord is her strength. I want that joy. How does it get you to connect with the Lord?
So even in that, you are still serving. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No, and it's so true because everything we do flows into the rest of our life. So as you're saying, if you have this positive energy, you're working out physically, you're stronger physically, you show up better for the people around you, you show up better for yourself, and you probably show up better for work as well. Your mind is sharper. And I always try to speak about that as well, that fitness isn't about just, oh, I look good. I just want the flat stomach.
That's a great side effect.
Right? I want the thunder thighs. Like, yes, we do. But there's so much more that comes out of it. I want you to tell me a little bit more about mental matters and why it matters so much for you to support people in their mental health journey and how you've seen maybe one of the biggest stories you've seen that because of that awareness, someone was able to make a better or different decision.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, Mental Matters South Africa is an organization. So Gugu Masondo was my partner in crime. We founded it in 2018 after an event where we brought people in the room who are living with mental health challenges and also healthcare experts to kind of have a discourse between one another. I think it's important that, like I said, yes, you know what the condition is, but what is the effect of this on my life practically? So if I'm a healthcare provider and I'm treating you and giving you medication, if I don't understand as someone who's in the entertainment industry, maybe, for example, weight is a big issue for you, if we are now giving you epilim, which causes weight gain, it's going to affect your adherence to that medication. I need to understand that and how and why you might default from that treatment. On the flip side as well, as someone who's taking, that medication, if you are someone who needs to work nights and you are doing night shifts, it's going to be very important for you to be able to stay awake and stay alert. If I'm giving you medication that makes you drowsy, that's not going to be of service to you, even if your mental health is quite critical at that point. So when we have two groups of people in the room having those conversations together, we have better understanding. And then we can go forth and say, okay, so now that we know what it is we are dealing with and what the impacts are, what are the next steps? And that's why we love bringing people into the room who can share experiences. Because I think sometimes, yes, it's fine. The healthcare provider said, yeah, I must, not eat a lot of salt. But when you have someone sitting next to you, or someone on the stage who's gone through exactly that thing. Like we had you at our one for body image, and you were speaking about how, you had the journey of having your parents who were encouraging you to go into pageantry, and you had your parents who were also in ministry. And so what does that look like? Someone might be in that position and not really sure. They might ask advice of other people, but you've actually lived through that experience. Your testimony is a weight, and it gives them a lot more confidence to be able to make a decision knowing that, this has worked out. It might not be exactly the same, but it might be for me. I think the other thing about Mental Matters South Africa is it really is a vehicle for us to talk about issues that people tend to shy away from. So we don't just do general health topics. We look at specific issues. Parenting, and we have a full day just on parenting. We speak about body image, so we speak about the physical aspect of it. Yes, exercise, what's important to consider when you are, choosing a trainer or starting a new workout. Yeah. Maybe some goals that are not like specific weight goals, but I want to sleep better. I want to be able to do pull-ups by the end of the year, all of those things. But also the mental and spiritual aspect of it. Why is it that I can see myself in the mirror and not see what you see? Is it because there's a body dysmorphia that I need to address? Is there an eating disorder that I need to address? So we kind of go through that as well, and what kind of diagnostic criteria would help you assess that. But the biggest thing for me with mental matters is we look at the spectrum, because life is hard. There are a lot of things that happen every day. But how does a bad day become a disorder? And what does that spectrum look like? What are the danger signs I need to pick up along the way that says I need to get help early before it becomes what a disorder is? A repetitive pattern or repetitive steps and behaviors that become patterns that are dysfunctional. That's disorder. We want to help you get to the point where just before, or maybe even when the symptoms start, you're like, okay, I need help. Yeah. I need to talk to someone, even if it's a friend. It doesn't necessarily have to be a healthcare professional.
Yeah. So being in that space where, you are exposed to what it looks like to struggle with mental health illnesses, but also being someone who's so strong in your faith, right? Yes. I've lived in rooms and spaces where, because people have a certain faith and belief, they don't believe that things like mental health is a real thing. It's like, no, man, the Bible says cast all your cares and your anxieties unto God. Or they'll say things like, oh, it's because you don't believe in God. Like, how are you depressed? The Bible says the joy of the Lord is your strength. So how do you balance that? Because I feel like, yes, it is true. The joy of the Lord is my strength, but I'm also struggling and things are dark and I'm feeling depressed. So what is the truth? Where's the balance in that?
So both are true, right? Yes, the joy of the Lord is everybody's strength and you have access to that. But if there are chemical imbalances in your brain that don't even allow you to get up out of bed in the morning, make it difficult for you to even read and understand and comprehend what it is that you are reading, make it difficult for you to go to church and socially interact with other people, that is when mental illness becomes challenging, because you can't engage with the truth that is in the word if you can't even get past the mind block and the fog that you have in your head. So mental illness is about saying, what are the things we need to do now to get you out of that place? And sometimes it is medication. Other times it's therapy and what they call cognitive behavioral therapy, where we challenge the beliefs you have about yourself and say, what thinking patterns got you to this place and what do we have to change in and replace it with? It's important for us to understand that in a setting of faith, faith can take you from 0 to 100. It can also take you from 100 to 0. Because I think people think it's all about motivating you. Sometimes God has to slow you down, right? And it's important for anyone, when you're going through a mental health journey, to acknowledge that there are some times where you have to do stuff, but there's other times where you have to stop doing stuff. And faith for me is a way to connect to God and say, show me the way to do that. Because here's a person who I might be consulting with, a healthcare professional. Maybe I can't afford another one, or I can't afford to be picky about who I choose, who doesn't believe in what I believe in. But here is the word. They're giving me medication that's helping my brain settle enough that I have enough energy to shower, enough energy to go to church, enough energy to praise and worship, enough concentration to look at the word and really see what does when they say that fear and anxiety is not something that I should live by, what does that actually mean for me who's living with fear and anxiety? How can I combat that with the word, but also combat that with actions that God is giving me? So both can work together. It's not an either or, in the same way that if someone, for example, was to treat cancer, right? It's a medical condition.
I was about to actually ask you that.
It needs treatment. But and I get so upset when people on social media get frustrated with people when they post their journey and they post their testimony about, thank God for helping me deal with this battle or with cancer or healing me. I'm now in remission. And then people are like, yeah, but the healthcare providers did that. And I'm like, yes, but what's not to say that God didn't empower those healthcare providers to make the right choices for you? What's not to say that God didn't direct you to those specific people, that they were the ones that could help you? What's not to say that God didn't put in their minds to pray for you while they were working and treating on you, So the two can work together, and I can use my skills as a human being to just be a vessel for what God is doing. But God ultimately has the final say. And I think in healthcare, whether it's mental illness, whether it's suicide, medical conditions, even, trauma, like accidents that happen, it's always important to remember that God has the final say. And that also, as a human being, relieves me of the control that I think I have and the power that I think I have to make things happen or not happen.
But that also lifts a weight off your shoulder that at the end of the day, all I can do is my best. All I can do is do my part. But the outcome is in God's hands.
Yes, because I think it's important that when God made us in his image, he made us to be able to interact with him and one another on an equal footing, right? Not to say we are equal to God, but just to be able to speak to him. Because if I always say to people who ask me, how do I start a relationship with God? Just talk to him like a friend. Some people might have tricky relationships with family. That's why I always say friend.
Valid.
Yes, but I had a really great relationship with my dad. That's why I call God Bra God, because everyone calls my dad Bra Socks.
Wow, that's
so beautiful. I'm just like, yeah, this is a natural progression, But when you talk to a friend, it's someone who you want to talk to every day. You want them to talk to you. You want them to listen to you. You want them to give you advice. And you also want them not to judge you, right? So if a person, a human being can do that, God can definitely do that for you on a level that you could never imagine. There's something that says that if God could take away something that you never thought losing, imagine what he can give you. Imagine the things that he could give you that you could never even see, right? So when we have that community of people around us, it makes it easier to connect with God. But more importantly, when we understand that God is here for us, he's here for us. He didn't make us just for vibes. He made us because he wanted a community and a relationship with us. It makes encountering all of these challenges we have so much easier, be they medical, mental health, or illness. Not to say that those things are easy to handle, but they become easier to deal with and challenge because of the power of God.
I feel like I need to say amen to that because
let's go, girl.
Because
amen.
You're preaching. Because you are preaching right now.
Thank you. But I really hope that at the end of the day, all I am is a vessel. And if what I'm saying is helping or moving your spirit, listen to that, because that is God saying, Sisi, Buti, this is the thing I've been calling you to, right? And that's not to go in deeper onto my page. It's to go deeper into the word. It's to go deeper into what is it that he's trying to say and trying to call you to do.
Yeah. There's this question that I wanted to ask you. earlier on, I'm like, we can't end this episode without me asking.
Okay.
But the society is constantly changing, and I feel like we're in a time where truth has almost become subjective.
Yes.
And so
Social media.
Yeah. My truth, your truth.
Yes.
We decide. How do you feel about raising kids? And I mean, you work with a lot of children in your day to day. How do you feel about raising kids and just the access of information, access to information that they have, the role models that they are exposed to? How do you think is the best way, or what do you think is the best way to navigate society now as a parent, one, but also as a role model in the social media space? Because you have a great following as well. And for me, that always feels like it's a responsibility.
Absolutely.
Right? So I want you to answer this for me, both as a parent that you would advise for someone. I mean, some of us, one day, I'll come back to this episode when I have those kids and be like, this is what Khanyile said we should do. How would you advise someone as a parent, but also someone who's maybe got influence? We all have influence, right? So to be responsible with that, how are we raising children in today's society with how the world is going?
Yeah. So as a parent, I think it's important to know that your child was given to you, so you can always make the best decision for the child, right? And you should make the best decision for the child with whatever information you have. So the responsibility on us as parents is to make sure that we empower ourselves with the right information, which is hard, right, in social media, because everybody, like you said, has an opinion. You might think that you are doing the right thing, and then you go there and you see someone is like making perfect lunch boxes, or they're like curating beautiful parties, and you're just like, hey, we just went to the farm. Is that enough? All right. So always, for yourself as a parent, is to give yourself grace to know that what you are doing with whatever you have is enough for your child. They don't know any better, okay? And then as they get older, when they start exposing themselves to the world, you need to have a very strong moral standing on things. That no matter who comes, no matter what question comes, you have a grounding that you can stand on. For me personally, I can't rely on my mind. That's why I rely on the word. And I stand on the word because even if it challenges me, it's a point that I need to go to maybe someone else, either a pastor, to my parents, or to a friend who's in ministry, to say, this is what God is saying about, for example, divorce. Families are really, really hard, like a matata, like they're doing things. Why is divorce such a big deal? And when I get that understanding, it helps me realize, okay, so as a wife, as a mother, as a woman in society, these are the kinds of things I need to be imparting to my daughter. Safety, for her, so that when she goes out into the world, people will not agree with her, but she will be able to stand on something that's not me. Because in 10 years, I could change my mind, but the word doesn't change. When it comes to being so you spoke to me as a parent, thank you. But as someone who's influential, or someone who has influence over possible decisions that people make, again, I think to myself, if I was in 10 years and I changed my mind, how much further from what I'm saying now would my mind need to change for me to look crazy now? So if we're talking about divorce, right? And let's say today I say, I completely agree with divorce for this and this and this reason. If in 10 years I now completely change my tune and say, absolutely not, you must never divorce, were the foundational reason, the principles behind what I'm saying still solid? And if the principles have to change in order for my opinion to change, then it's not an opinion I need to take a stand on yet. Right? So I can still be ruminating about it and thinking about it, but it doesn't mean I have to go on a public platform and talk about it. And I think that's really tricky, because there's so much access to influencers and people who have opinions that release things the same day that an event or something has happened, or within a week that a topic has come out. You're like, yes, we're on this and we have an opinion. But we also have a responsibility to give ourselves times as people who have a voice to think about it and collect and gather information, so that when we do speak about it, we can feel confident that our principles are correct on this. And I think that's happened to me a lot. And people oftentimes ask me, Kanya, when are you doing a video about, whatever topic? And I say, I don't know enough about it, or I don't have enough confidence that I can speak about this with authority. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would rather not say anything and be labeled as, not being interested in this topic. Even though if someone has to ask me my opinion on the side, I would have something that I would be able to contribute. But because of the platform that I have, there are young girls, there are young boys, there are mothers and fathers, there are children who are going through med school, people who are in the, science and technology space that are going to use what I say to potentially make decisions. I have to be responsible in that and know that if they make a decision and it doesn't work, will I be able to say, but my principle still stands in what I said? Having said that, there's always room for error, right? And I think we need to give people, this cancel culture thing stresses me out because we don't give people enough grace to make mistakes. I'm not talking about people who are like committing crimes.
Yeah.
We're not there. We're not there. But if someone makes a mistake and they come back and they say, okay, I had this opinion about something, I've realized that I made a mistake at that time, we should also be able to give them grace and not say, and when you're always busy saying things before it's too quick. Like, let them learn the lesson 100%. And let us as people with platforms be responsible in the way we communicate that.
I love that. I could chat and sit with you the entire day because just the wisdom that you're sharing at such a young age as well.
I receive.
Girl, you're giving 18.
I am. Thank you, girl.
Yeah, I would have to explain Diapollo though. Like, what happened?
Diapollo is a child of God. Diapollo is the Lord's baby.
Yeah, ne?
That's not my
miracle
child.
baby.
She's a miracle baby.
Just like Jesus. But Khanyile, we are coming to the end of our episode. I'm so sad about that because there's still so much I want to chat to you about.
Really?
Yeah. No. Seriously.
Did I talk too much?
We're going to bring you back. Bring you back.
I receive. Yes.
But in closing, what are some of your closing comments to my audience, to your followers? What is something that's in your heart that you truly just want to leave us with here today?
Yeah. So we spoke about faith and fitness. And I think you did say that those are two pillars, right?
Yeah. And the other one is finance.
Yes. And finance. Hey, guys, finance. That's why I married an accountant because, wow, God knew.
You said if I'm not going to be the one, I better marry the one.
God knew. But particularly with faith and fitness and actually finance, I think they all work together. And why I love training so much is because pushing my body and being able to do all of these things kind of is a picture for the way that God trains my spiritual life, right? When Waven, my trainer, says, my sister, jump on this box with the weight on your back, I'm like, no, that's very hard. And he's like, yeah, but you've jumped on the box with no weight. You've jumped on a smaller box. You've jumped on the smaller box with some weight. So jump on the big box with some weight. I have done all the things I need to do to train you for this particular task. I know you can do it. Just do it. And then I hear God going, also, you're going to jump on the box when he tells you to, but not when I tell you to, right? So it's really nice because it's a physical manifestation of the spiritual effort that God is putting into me. And then I also get to reciprocate that to say, okay, God, I'm trusting you with this. It's going to hurt because training hurts, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But what is the nutrition I need to put into my body? What protein, what supplements, what rest, what stretches do I need to do? In the same way that faith is not just reading the Bible. It's not just praise and worship. It's not just going to church. It's not just sitting down with a friend and talking about it. It's all of those things together that work to strengthen your spiritual life. So what are all the things you do to strengthen your fitness journey? And also finances. It's discipline. There are going to be days where that bag that you want is looking at you. Mm-hmm. But you know that you've got your debit orders coming in 2 days. And you have to hold yourself back, discipline yourself. And then when you have the ability to do that, you go forth. So that's the one thing I want to say. Everything you do in your life intertwines with one another. Your faith, your fitness, your finances, your family, all of it is one thing. You just have to realize that what you have now is something that God has given you to steward over. And once you are confident in that, even if you don't think you're ready, God will give you more. And trust that you can do that because you've already done with the little what you're going to do with the many.
Amen. God, I could cry. Like, this lady over here, like, if you're not following her, I don't know what you're doing. So go and follow her on social media and every other platform. We'll put everything on the screen. And thank you so much for tuning in. Please do let us know what stood out for you in today's conversation. And I hope you are taking notes. Catch us again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.